Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Dead End Drive-In. I am Flesh Wound Dan, and I am joined by my panel tonight, Dirk, Subjective, Perspective, Collective. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here.
It's good to have you. And we're also joined by Goraphobe. How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's good to see you guys. So you may be familiar with these guys, or you may not be. If it's your first introduction, Dirk, since you're right next to me here, tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you become a movie fan in general? What do you love in the genre?
Well, I mean, what I love now is mainly Italian cinema for the most part. But what drew me in was I was 6 years old, and I watched The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre the same night, and I was hooked ever since. Scared the shit out of me, and it just never left. I mean, I stayed up late, watching those bad movies. I was trying to find the most gruesome damn movies, but
Yeah.
Over time, just you kind of get burned out on the mainstream stuff, and then you start trying to find something that's great, that's lesser known, So
Yeah.
that's kind of like a real passion with the giallo and everything. Just digging back in the 70s and before even. I mean, I can watch something as old as 100 years ago. So
yeah.
But I'm just kind of tired of a lot of the new stuff. Now independent stuff's great, but so just figured, I've seen so many people doing channels. I've been inspired. So I was like, I'm gonna give it a go, man.
Well, it's good to have you. And Goraphobe, you guys might be somewhat familiar with. I actually did my most listened to episode ever on Goraphobe's channel for I Spit on Your Grave. What is that at now, Keith? It's like 120,000, something crazy.
Close to it. It's up close to 118 now, I think.
Damn.
Yeah. I Spit on Your Grave. That's the magic formula, I guess. But let us know a little bit about yourself for anybody just tuning in that hasn't gotten to know you yet.
Well, kind of like Dirk, man. From the time I was a little kid, I seen The Exorcist in 1978 when I was 5 years old. I followed that up the next year with Halloween. And then the next year after that was The Shining. And then on and on and on. I'm a lifetime film, just in general fan. I love all film. Every form. Like, people be shocked some of the shit that I've watched, but mainly horror. And just like Dirk, I am so fed up with mainstream. I'm screamed out. I'm sick of all the rehashing of all the Halloween. Giallo, I actually got in a little bit late on Giallo, only about 10 years ago, but there's a lot to catch up on. And I started a channel because just like my name, I kind of named myself after my social disease. I have agoraphobia, and there was one point in my life where I spent 2 years in the house, and I didn't leave it all for 2 years. So just trying to recover and trying to be able to reach out to somebody besides people inside my house, I decided to start a channel. That was almost 3 years ago, and after several breaks and only about 2 years worth of actual content, I actually made a little bit of a name for myself. So
it's
right now
great to have you on.
Right now,
you also come from the well, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you also come from the pro wrestling world, which is always a unique connection because I've got wrestling connections. Kruger's an active pro wrestler, so I always find that interesting how wrestling and horror somehow connects.
Many years ago, I started in 1998, and I had a 12-year wrestling career, like 500 matches. Yeah, I wrestled Jake the Snake Roberts, and I do believe it was April 14th of 2001 in a 4-way dance. So
nice.
Oh, yeah.
So guys, so DeadEnd Drive-In, our formula is basically going to be cross-genre. So you'll see a lot of horror, obviously, because, there's just so much good horror out there. But you'll also see some grimy 42nd Street action favorites on the channel. You'll see various exploitation. We'll probably have sex comedies at some point, monster movies. You'll see all kinds of stuff on this channel, and on this particular show. So we hope you guys enjoy it. But we kicked it off with horror for our launch because I was like, all right, we'll give them a little horror before we get into Fight for Your Life or something.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
We don't want to scare them off right off the bat.
Right.
So,
yeah, I'm a big fan of the nasties as well, man. So.
Yeah. Video nasties are always interesting to me because it's like there's some I totally understand why it would make that list, and then there's others where I was like, well, that movie's basically PG.
Yeah.
Or PG-13 by modern standards. The ones that got hit just because of the title or
that and the fact if it has any kind of household tools that are committing murders.
yeah. Just if it has "don't" in the title, you're screwed. We're gonna
don't.
We're gonna bury you if we see that "don't." That might even be a.
We can thank England we can thank England for that title, kind of like the U.S. We can thank for the parental advisory on the CDs to tell us what's good and what's not.
Yeah. I guess Walmart editing movies is like our equivalent to that, but it had to suck living in the UK back in the day. Just you were aware of all the good shit that you were missing out on. Some stuff didn't even pass until a few years ago, which is wild to me. But
there's still some stuff that's not passed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's crazy. So we're going to kick things off tonight. As I said, these are early 80s horror films, and they both have new releases. So the first one we're going to kick it off with is Funeral Home from 1980. This film was also known initially as Cries in the Night, and it's from director William Fruet, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. But if you're unfamiliar, this movie, just from the back cover here, which this is that beautiful new edition from Scream Factory. And in Funeral Home, young and easily frightened Heather is called to stay with her grandmother in the hopes of helping her turn an old funeral home into a bed and breakfast. But strange happenings and unexplained murders around the home quickly make this vacation spot a dead end breakfast. It's up to Heather to investigate the eerie and creepy corners of the former funeral home to unlock a decades-old secret. Will she survive long enough to survive the mystery? So this movie has a history of really shoddy transfers. I think I owned it a few different times. I owned it on the Chilling Classics 50 movie set, which 50 to 100 movies. You're getting the best transfers.
Oh yeah.
So finally we get it restored. This is a Canadian tax shelter slasher that owes a lot to a certain Alfred Hitchcock movie, and if you've seen it,
no doubt about it. And this is the first time for me to watch either one of these.
Oh, nice.
But watching this one, I watched it on YouTube, and that's a horrible. I mean, I couldn't find a good transfer. It's real nasty, dark. But it took me back to my childhood, kind of watching those shitty movies, not shitty movies, but watching those shitty, transfers back then.
Yeah.
So it kind of put me in that vibe of it. Not trying to stall anything up, but
no, you're right. What it looks like crap in pretty much any other edition.
It adds a certain creepiness charm to it, though. Like for me, it's real dark.
Yeah, was this a first time watch for you, Keith?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
I had seen it many years ago, and then I seen it again about 5 years ago, and then I watched it just here a couple hours ago, just so it'd be fresh. This has got a who's who of Canadian actors in it. You know, you got Howard from My Bloody Valentine. You got Leslie Donaldson from Curtains, and
Curtains
Happy Birthday to Me. You know, and a great performance from Kay Hawtrey. Unbelievable.
Oh yeah, and I heard that she hated the director in this movie. Like she said she hated him. Like couldn't stand him. But anyway.
Yeah, there was a lot of fighting on set with William Fruet, who he became a big genre director in Canada, but this was his first horror film. In the 60s, he wrote a script for just an absolutely revered Canadian film called Going Down the Road, which was a drama. He starts to go a little more commercial in the 70s with stuff like House by the Lake. And he did some horror films that I'm pretty fond of. Spasms.
Yeah, I've just heard about Spasms with Oliver Reed and something about a snake biting him and this telepathic shit going on. And he can see the snake killing people. Like, I'm all about it, man.
Yeah, Spasms is a really fun movie. House by the Lake. One that always made me kind of laugh. It's called Blue Monkey. It's a monster movie.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's a killer bug movie, but it's called Blue Monkey for some reason.
That just makes sense, you know.
Killer Party seems to be one of his more popular films. Just kind of a somewhat ahead of its time 80s slasher. For you 90s kids out there, he directed a significant chunk of the Goosebumps TV series. So he had a very long career. But this is kind of the one that started it all. And revisiting it again, it like I said, it very heavily borrows from Hitchcock's Psycho. Yeah.
We're not spoiling nothing, right?
I'm not, we don't have older films, so there might be light spoilers, but we don't have to.
I won't spoil nothing, but I'll say this. So the film's doing, when I'm watching it, I'm thinking one thing, and then it does a little twist at the end. That's all. I'm gonna be pretty vague about this. It does a little twist, and then I'm like, oh shit. And then it does something else. That's all I'm saying. So it did catch me off guard. So I was like, I appreciated that shit. You know?
Yeah. It's one of those films I find a lot of people are disappointed because they're expecting a body count slasher.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was shot in 79, but it didn't have much of a release until 82. So at that point, I think everybody was expecting that this was going to be, Friday the 13th type body count film. And it's really more of an atmospheric thriller.
Only 4 kills, but I mean, it's a slow burn. It really is.
I like this film.
I dig it. I watched it twice, believe it or not, because
I like the way it's set up, man. I
don't know, man.
It's at least paced well. You know what I mean? At least it's got
There's
good
something
pacing.
Yeah.
The characters are interesting. You know what I mean? It does great flashbacks. So you know what I mean? So at least it keeps you interested. And I like suspense and slow burn. So
it's slow as hell, but the payoff's great. Like, so I never mind it when it's a great payoff,
Yeah, I met Leslie Donaldson years ago at Chiller Theater Convention up in New Jersey, so I got to talk to her. I always enjoyed her work. She's kind of known as the Canadian Jamie Lee Curtis. She had a certain quality about her that I think could have taken her further. I got to talk to her a little bit about this. We talked Curtains, which she was shocked that movie developed the following that it did, because which, man, who knows, maybe we'll do that on a future episode. Curtains was a very problematic production. They had a lot of issues, but somehow, some way, that amassed quite the following in the horror community. This one, if you go in and you like you said, slow burn, atmospheric horror, I think you'll enjoy it. It's not original, and it could be a little more scary if I'm being honest, but there is something about it. Kay Hawtrey is fantastic.
Yeah, she's
and
definitely the standout, I would say. Is that
All by
transfer?
herself is fucking creepy.
Yeah, she's very creepy.
That transfer you have, that I mean, the new release, it's miles difference, right?
Yeah, if you are a fan of this movie, I can tell you that this Scream Factory transfer is miles better than anything I've ever seen before.
Okay. Yeah.
To the point, to be honest, like it's watching the movie for the very first time. So
I can see that because it's dark as hell, man. The version I saw, like,
yeah,
it does work on one scene in particular where it looks like, all I'll say is it looks like the Grim Reaper. In the dark. That shit is killer as hell, though. I gotta admit.
The darkness of it kind of puts me in mind of before Humongous had a Blu-ray release. Humongous looked the same way on DVD. It was real dark and it was hard to see. And most of Humongous, anybody that's seen that, most of that movie is in the dark. So that was a real bitch until Scorpion finally brought it to Blu-ray. And now that's one of my favorites. Always has been.
Oh, we can definitely do Humongous in the future. The VHS of that was almost unwatchable. I had it back in the day, and it was like, whoa, what is going on? I mean, it sounds cool, but I can't see anything. So, Humongous is a fun one. Probably one that pairs well with the movies we're doing tonight. I think Leslie Donaldson shot this when she was 15. A lot of these Canucksploitation Canadian horrors at the time, they're not all gold, but they all tend to be very well made, at least have compelling characters. They're a little overly sentimental, some of them, but
without spoiling the film, I could even say that there might be a little ambiguousness to this one. After it's all said and done. I mean, I might be alone. I might be reaching. I don't know, but
I think Leslie Donaldson and Kay Hawtrey make this one worth a watch. And it's funny because when they announced this, I feel like 5, certainly 10 years ago, there'd be more excitement in the air. But I've heard nobody really talking about this on other YouTube channels, which, it's early 80s horror. People used to get excited about that, but this is, it's not a franchise title, so I feel like
standalone.
Yeah, people just are kind of overlooking it.
This one's always been kind of like the Stepchild. You know what I mean? I mean, on its release, they spent 1 million on it and only made back 1.3 million. So it's always been kind of overlooked. They tried to re-release it twice. They released it as Cries in the Night, and then in '82 they re-released it as The Funeral Home, and it's still, you know what I mean? It just take off, and it's too bad because a lot of good films suffer that.
Yeah, the U.S. actually distributor just felt Funeral Home was more marketable. I think it kind of felt like that was promising more of a blood and guts slasher, which this again very much is not, if that's what you're looking for.
No, not at all.
I do think this movie has a very polite Canadian style ending in a weird sort of way. I won't say exactly what it is, but I was like, oh, could have gone a little nastier with that.
Let's go talk about it. Okay, I'll make some tea. Okay, let's go talk.
Yeah. The Canadian police,
the Black Cat, and all that shit.
Canadian police are a lot more friendly. At that point, I don't think you'd be getting that reaction if this were, the NYPD or something. It's like, no, sorry, old lady.
It was a smaller town too. You know what I mean? Like you actually felt like that. in my opinion, you felt like this was a real community. You know what I mean? You felt like that these people were actually grew up around each other and actually knew each other. Like she was from there, and I always call him Howard from My Bloody Valentine. You know, the deputy. He just felt like he had known her since he was a little kid. You know what I mean? To me, it just felt organic.
Yeah. What do y'all think about him being a goofy cop though? Does that ever take y'all out of a film, like with the goofy cop bit? I mean, they do it a lot in the 80s. They do it a lot in all the time, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, you go back to Last House on the Left, where it's like, yeah, the goofy cops are an interesting choice there, but
kind of like I guess
didn't even feel goofy. Yeah, I mean, compared to the role he played in My Bloody Valentine, he's serious as fuck, and this is a deputy. But he was a goof off as fuck in My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. There's a good, I can't remember who wrote it, but there is a good book out there. It's out of print, Canucksploitation, History of Canadian Horror, I believe, something to that effect. That's worth reading if you're a fan of these films. And there's some great Canadian horror.
Great slashers.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap this up, and I'll talk a little bit about the special features. It's, like I said, the atmosphere is strong. I think this is well worth at least one watch if you know what you're getting into. It's derivative for sure. This is not something original by any means. It borrows heavily from Hitchcock.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it. I hadn't watched it in many years. And the fact that, once again, this isn't a case of, The Craft coming to 4K and looking exactly like the Blu-ray. If you buy this, you're getting a huge upgrade in terms of picture quality. So I do appreciate that. I don't feel like, oh, this looks just like my DVD. I promise it won't look just like your DVD. So you guys have any closing thoughts on Funeral Home?
I would say give it a go. If you're into slow burn with a pretty decent payoff, and you might think it's going one way, and there's a little twist, but just check it out. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I'd say for me.
Yeah, just be patient. Know what you're going to watch. Know you're not going to be watching Friday the 13th or Pieces. You're going to be watching a suspense, slow build with I think a pretty damn good payoff at the end. And you know what I mean? And I totally enjoy it, man. I always have. The first time
I forgot to mention the her morals. Like her whole moral thing is like with the, I know we kind of skipped all that, but with the people, the bed and breakfast, the people that come, they're not married.
Yeah.
And,
she wasn't okay with that.
No. And the woman, what's her name? Damn, I didn't.
Kay Howtree.
Not her, but the sleazy woman.
Oh yeah.
trying to mess with the mentally challenged guy. Shit.
Yeah, seducing him with their hot pants. Yes.
Yeah.
That reminded me of Devil Times 5. There's a scene in Devil Times 5 that's kind of like that too, where she's fucking with the slower guy.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, when I was seeing that scene, so she's messing with him, asking him if he wants to make love to her.
Yeah.
When he gets mad and starts hitting that tree stump, I wonder if somebody saw that for, Friday 5. I don't know.
It wouldn't shock.
I mean? It's a mentally guy with an axe getting pissed off, hitting a damn tree stump. But that's what I was thinking of when I was watching it.
Might even have been subconsciously, you know what I mean? They started writing that in Friday 5 and didn't know where it came from, and it was just something buried in there.
Maybe that's reaching, but I don't know.
There's some films that I really feel like Final Destination and a film called Soul Survivor are two. Now those are very different tones, but similar storyline. And I wonder, it's like, oh, nobody remembers this 1980 film. We can borrow a little bit from it. I don't know if Jeffrey Reddick did that or not.
To me, the Final Destinations are the original Final Destinations were the Omen, the first couple of Omen movies. You know what I mean? You get the same type of kills, you get the same type of aspect. That's how they're killing people off. It's just like in Final Destination.
Yeah, freak accidents and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. But yeah, I concur with you guys. I think out of 10, 6 out of 10 seems fair for this. I do feel it's worth a watch. And so special features wise, you guys get an audio commentary with film historians Jason Pikonsky and Paul Karup. Very informative. I enjoyed listening to the commentary. I often do that. I am an extra features guy. I'm kind of, while I'm working, I'll listen to a lot of audio commentaries, and I thought that one was well worth a listen. Paul Karup is actually the webmaster of Canucksploitation.com. So if you want to check that out, he's really probably the biggest expert you could find on Canadian horror. He talks also a little bit about expectations, because this came out in 1982. You had My Bloody Valentine out, Happy Birthday to Me, Prom Night, these Canadian slashers, that this was the one that, like, okay, that's not exactly what we were expecting from this. And he talks a little bit about that, and how William Fruet really became the genre director. It was a solid. It had some success outside of North America, so it wasn't a total failure, but certainly took a while for it to find its audience. And who knows? I'm curious to see first-time viewers what they think of this now as they pick up the Blu-ray, which I think you probably should. It's not ridiculously expensive either. So
I mean, I watched the shitty transfer, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I tend to do that. I try to watch things twice. I didn't love it. I liked it better on the second go. But this is my first time watching it too. So
yeah, I'm happy to have it in my collection and that it can be seen how it's meant to be seen. There's also an audio interview with music historian Douglas Fake, new audio interview with Leslie Donaldson. It was interesting hearing her view of the film. There's Secrets and Shadows, an interview with the DOP Mark Irwin, and DeadEnd Breakfast interviews with art director Susan Longmire and set assistant Eleanor Galbraith. And also one of the better features on here, family owned and operated, an interview with Barry Allen, the president of Premier Drive-In Theaters, which was one of the early theater chains in Canada. So they kind of run down that history. I always love film history like that. And there's some locations featurettes as well. So this is a great release. Once again, like, Scream Factory isn't just putting everything on 4K that they've already put out. So check this out. There's stuff like Chamber of Horrors is another one that they put out not too long ago. They are still releasing stuff and not just upgrading the 4K.
Not just re-releasing.
Yeah, not just re-releasing. And there's a lot of stuff. Like I look at some of the 4K upgrades, and sometimes I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I'm looking more than 30 seconds to see a difference. You got to question whether that's worth it.
I know, man. Like, I can't rebuy everything on 4K. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, that's the thing, because 4K players play Blu-rays anyways. So
yeah,
you're good.
You're upscaling anyway. And if it's a 4K scan, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot closer than people realize. There's exceptions. There are exceptions, but so that's Funeral Home. So I should preface our second feature on the drive-in today by saying it is a childhood favorite of mine, but not everybody loves it. So we'll kind of see where you guys fall, but it is the 1981 film The Boogens from director James L. Conway. And if you're unfamiliar with this one, in a small town near Denver, two young men begin to explore a long abandoned old mine recently reopened by a group of miners. When one of the men is discovered missing, his friends begin a search that lead them to horrifying consequences. They are all aware of the evil that has been unleashed, and soon, one by one, the townspeople are snatched up by a monster that no one has yet to see. Suddenly, the grisly truth is revealed, and a young couple is forced to confront the unknown in order to save their lives and the entire town. After 100 years, they have reawakened. Prepare to meet the Boogens. So, the Boogens is new to 4K from Kino Lorber, as you can see here. About 12 years ago or so, Olive did put out a Blu-ray.
That's the one that I saw, was the Olive scan.
Yeah. So, well, hot tag to you guys. Was this a first watch for you?
Yeah, this is the first time for me.
What'd you guys think?
I rate this one a little higher than Funeral Home for me.
Really? Okay.
A little bit higher. I'll go ahead and say I give it a 7 out of 10. So
nice.
It's like early 80s cheese.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the dialogue's not perfect, mixed with like a slasher mixed with a creature feature. And I like the fact you don't really see the creature. They keep the creature hidden for the most part. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a good time, man. It's there's something about there's scenes that seem like there should be nudity going on, you know, like, I don't know. It's a little aggravating, but whatever.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you say that, because there was the actress Anne-Marie Martin, who plays Jessica, the friend.
Yeah.
She was actually married to Michael Crichton. Which kind of explains why she just dropped off the face of the earth, because she divorced Michael Crichton and she's probably a billionaire at this point. But she, at the last minute, had reneged on her nudity deal. So that scene where she's being chased, which is so effective, that towel, I'm like, how the hell is that towel staying on, man? Like, how is that towel? Like, you're getting the shit kicked out of you, and I don't understand how the towel stays on, but
yeah. And I did hear that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and those who don't recognize that name may recognize her as Eddie Benton from Prom Night. She played Wendy.
Yep.
And it's also got Rebecca Baldy, who actually married the director of this film. They met on this film. And she was in She was in Silent Scream. Trying to think of
Silent Scream
in there. She that's why she did decide to show some nudity, is because Anne Marie didn't.
Yeah.
And this is one that I grew up on too as a kid. I seen this for the first time. It came out in '81, so I probably see it. It came to HBO that next year, so I probably seen it at 9. So I loved it as a kid too.
That's crazy, man. Because I mean, this one slipped past me. I've never seen it, and you know, I was born in '77, so I don't know, but
I was born in '86, and I remember I had to hunt this one down. It was a long time in between TV airings of this, and then the VHS also has kind of a screwy history. But you gotta love these '80s titles for some of these movies that don't always make sense. I mean, we talked on the previous review, Blue Monkey, and it's a bug movie.
That makes a lot of sense.
Titles that, like, we're just gonna make up words, Ghoulies, or
that'll sell.
Insaminoid.
Get the asses in the seats.
This was a childhood favorite of mine, though, as well. It is a slow burn. You take a long time to get a full view of the monster, but when you get towards the finale, all hell breaks loose. There's some really cool shots of the monster just dragging somebody down a vent, and
a lot of dragging, a lot of cool atmosphere with the snow. So I did hear that it was like I was reading, it was like -40 at night,
20,
or -20 at night. But yeah.
It was shot in Park City, Utah, I believe. So
that's another thing. It's supposed to be in Denver. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. Utah gets cold too. I've spent time in both, and Utah, it's not a fun place to be during winter. This one's extremely atmospheric. It's well written. That's another thing that it has going for it. The characters are very likable. The comedy works. In the setup, in a weird sort of way, it almost sets it up as like a sex comedy for like a minute. Like these guys.
With that one guy, he's just like thinking about sex the whole time, and
hormone man speech that he gives in the car. I'm like, oh,
you even got a Crazy Ralph character.
Yes,
creeping around.
Yes,
I'm not. Which is Nathan from Creepshow.
Okay.
He had a hell of a career.
Actor that played Nathan. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. It's always interesting. It's like the Crazy Ralph character. It's like, oh, couldn't you just tap him on the shoulder and explain that there's these subterranean monsters, and you should just
instead of creeping around like some, trying to look like a red herring,
Just tell me.
They call those perverts. These days, it wouldn't be a red herring. It would be a weird old pervert.
Yes. I'm not peeping on you. I'm just trying to get you not eaten by
just looking awkwardly at you all the time.
like peeking around the corner, I'm actually telling you to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. There's certainly moments in this like, I wonder, why are these human bones piled up neatly over here when it was like a, this that seems odd. It's like, you should get the fuck out. It's not a good thing.
Right. Yeah. If all these miners died, wouldn't they all be like,
not just in a neat little pile like that. But there's something about this one. I've heard mixed things about it over the years because obviously, again, I loved it, so I was always recommending it to people. But it made me laugh. I felt the tension. Again, this is a proper slow burn because when you do get to the finale, I think the finale is very lively. I think the creature looks good. William Munn, who has a featurette on the Blu-ray, he kind of explains the process of how he created the character, which kind of looked like a turtle mixed with a sheep brain kind of body, and then he gave it tentacles and claws. Very complex.
Stephen King gave it a really good review in Twilight Zone magazine.
I love Twilight
but don't hold it against the movie. You can't trust King's judgment.
He was a bit of a whore at times when it came to like books that he blurb, and it's not always best to go, but in this case I think he was right. I really like the creature because there is a lot going on with it. When I was a little kid, I was like, oh, it's got tentacles, claws, it's really cool. And they had an incident, so like some of the mine stuff from the beginning was, I believe it was in an abandoned grocery store that they built sets. They also had a fire, a really bad fire
that polyurethane, right? Like
they didn't realize. They just walked away, and it's like, oh no, this is like about to become an inferno. And so they actually do shoot some stuff in an actual silver mine, which again I think is cool. The movie,
because I'm expecting Harry Warden to pop out at any moment.
I
was getting some vibes, man, big time.
Good versus movie. Harry Warden versus the Boogens would have been great. But what I like about this movie is nothing feels fake. You know, the snow's real, the location, the mines, just it feels very authentic, and you got this really compelling creature that for me looks great. They were only able to create one and give you the impression that there were more.
Multiple. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, I'm glad that they kept it hidden though, for the most part.
Yeah.
Until the end. Like not overshow it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
yeah. But yeah, very well written, great natural dialogue and characters. Park City is a great location for this, and it's pretty cool that there was a real life love story. The director James Conway and Rebecca Balding were together for over 40 years. She passed sadly of cancer, I believe, in 2022. But they were together over 40 years, and
she was on Charmed, I believe.
She was.
The
The
end.
Did
90210, Charmed. Smallville, Supernatural.
Yeah, Star Trek.
Star Trek. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Soap, Dirk?
What is it?
Soap from the 70s. It was a sitcom.
Yeah, it was a spoof.
Yeah.
It had like
Richard Mulligan and all them in it. Yeah, she was in it. I do believe she was the youngest daughter of one of the two sisters. I don't remember which one. But
okay.
She was also in Silent Scream, which is another sleeper horror movie from like 1980.
I like Silent Scream.
They got married on this movie, right after this movie.
They did.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they were. I believe they actually married during the shoot. She proposed to him at a local bar. The story behind this is really cool, and I'll talk about the special features, but they do port over the Olive audio commentary, so it's kind of fun hearing them not only reminisce about the movie but their relationship and how that all worked.
She's the only one got nude, right?
She was, because they actually Anne Marie tried to talk her out of doing it. It's like, well, let's just all not do it, and she's like, no, I agreed to it. It was in the script, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Right. I've had that happen to me, where it's like, okay, but this is an erotic horror movie, so like we kind of need it. Like it's
kind of like
like I'm not being perverted, but you're a vampire, you know, it's an erotic vampire story. But so I get it, that kind of sucks. But the film company behind this, if producer Charles E. Sellier sounds familiar, most of you will know him as directing. He was more of a producer, but he directed Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is kind of what he's famous for. But this company was kind of known for family films before this. The Boogens was their first attempt at really making like a horror movie. And Charles Sellier was the pioneer of what they call four-walling, which is the process of renting a movie theater to show his movies so he could end up keeping all the profits. He was a huge success behind Grizzly Adams, which if you're old, you'll remember. Grizzly Adams was a big hit back in the day. And so he's the producer behind this one.
I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I did see one of the writers, David O'Malley. He did wrote House of the Devil. I mean House of the Dead, 1978.
Yeah.
And a couple episodes of Mork and Mindy. So I was like, what the hell is that shit?
Yeah.
This is a crazy group of writers and the director too, you know, like to make this film.
In all levels of making it, from the acting to the producing to directing and everything. There's a lot of series. There's a lot of sitcom and regular series work that the people that worked in these that made this.
Right.
You see a lot of old series, new series. You see Love Boat. You see Trapper John MD. A lot of shit like that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it works great. I mean, because when you get to the last 20, 25 minutes or so, when the shit does hit the fan, it's a great finale, and I think it's very well paced. It's just always been a movie that I really loved. I used to have the novelization, which is out there, and a lot of stuff like that's getting more pricey now. But if you're a collector, you may want to check that out. I will say, if you're a fan of the artwork, which it's strange artwork because it kind of gives you the impression of something that takes place in a swamp. It's cool artwork, but it's like, no, it's like a
don't really fit
horror. Yeah, wintry horror. But this one I think is entertaining as hell. It's the best movie of the night for me.
So.
Yeah, I think
out of the two for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate them both, what they do, but I think this one's pacing's a little better. You know, I know they're completely kind of different though, way different. Except for the rural, I guess you'd say, like, would you consider them both like rural locations?
Yeah, small town horror. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, this one is also, I think, scarier than Funeral Home for me, anyways. Growing up,
the score's got a creepy feel to it too.
It does. So I really think this one does everything well, from the casting, writing.
The gore is definitely better as well. So
yes, the gore is really good at the end. So I would say, if you are doing the double feature, which we hope you guys will, because this is sort of I think the theme. So if we inspire you, we won't always be covering great movies on this show. I'm sure we're gonna have plenty of crap that we will crap on. But yeah, this is a good double feature. We're gonna try and mash stuff together that makes sense for your weekend at the movies. And if you guys are listening to for the first time, or if you're regular viewers of Visited by Voices here on YouTube, please comment. We'd like to hear what you think might make a good double feature. So drop your comments on the videos, and we'll take that into consideration. So before I talk about the extra features, I guess we can go ahead and rate the Boogens. What do you guys rate it out of 10?
I give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah.
What say you, Keith?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. See, I seen this as a kid because and I seen all these when I was young, because my mom was a big horror fan, and she loved creature features and she loved horror. So that's why I caught all these young. So like I said, I seen this one as soon as it hit HBO. And I gave it probably an 8 or 9 out of 10 then. But now it maintains a good 7 out of 10. Still, it still holds up where a lot don't.
Yeah. I actually will give it an 8 out of 10. I still love it. It's played well for me as an adult as it did as a kid. And my mom was not into horror, but Twilight Zone was about as far as it went with my mom growing up. She saw Rosemary's Baby, which she said she could barely stand, and then she saw, I think the last one that ended her was Play Misty for me, which she saw on a date with my dad when he was in the Navy. So that was it for my mom. I wasn't watching any horror movies with my mom. But
I mean, and my mother was a huge Hitchcock fan. So, the Hitchcock Hour or whatever. I watched a ton of that growing up. So I think she's pretty much probably the reason I got into horror, to be honest. So,
so all right, so guys, on this particular 4K, and it's also got the Blu-ray 4K Blu-ray combo, which is good because the Blu-ray, I believe it from Olive now, is hard to get a hold of. It does have what I believe is a new commentary with actor Jeff Harlan and film historian Howard S. Berger of KNB fame, and very informative. I talked already about the William Munns, the man who made the Boogens featurette, which is not just about the Boogens, but it also runs down his career, some of the other stuff that he had worked on. I think he worked on Return of the Jedi and a lot of big stuff, a lot of smaller stuff, and he has some good stories. So if you're a fan of makeup and special effects artists, that's well worth a listen. And there is also the commentary that was ported over from the olive release with the director, the writer, and actress Rebecca Balding, which is
awesome.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun. They reminisce.
It seemed like she'd be a good conversation.
She is, and rest in peace. She was a very talented lady. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you guys will be back. You're certainly welcome back anything we record. So yeah, we'll.
Definitely,
I know.
Appreciate you having.
Absolutely. It's good to have you guys. And I'll tease a couple things for the future. I know at some point this month, and I don't know specifically what movies we'll cover for it, but I know we're going to have a Sasquatch show because there's something that feels right about Bigfoot in summer. So I think it's safe to say Night of the Demon will be one.
Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. You haven't lived until you've seen Sasquatch just rip a biker's dick off.
Yeah.
I think the greatest moment in cinema history by far. So we'll have a Sasquatch show. I know at some point we'll have a sex comedy show. Somebody else who I think will hopefully be joining us in the future wants to do Joysticks, which is a really fun movie. You'll see a lot of horror once again, some action, some Polizia, which I know you guys are into.
Oh yeah.
Can't go wrong with some Italian crime flicks, so we'll be doing that as well.
Hell no, man. It's always a good time.
Absolutely. So guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Before we cut out, do you want to promote your channels again?
So my channel's Subjective Perspective Collective. I'm Dirk. I have a co-host, Darren Burrows. Some people know him as Q Boy, but we cover a lot of Italian cinema, gialli, exploitation, some slashers, but yeah, a lot of stuff pretty underground that's never really sees the light of day to the majority, I would say. But,
awesome. I know Darren a little bit. We'll have to have him on sometime because I know him from Facebook. And Keith, tell them about your channel again.
I'm Keith, also known as Gorphobe, or Gorphobe, also known as Keith. And when I'm not on hiatus like I am right now, I do a Monday night watch along. Every Tuesday night I do an extreme theater. I do a wrestling show every other Monday. I do a Sunday afternoon matinee at 1. I do a roundtable discussion, which is basically focuses on films that are ignored or been overlooked. And I've got 2 or 3 new series that'll be coming out soon too. So in about a month, I'll be back actually kicking ass.
Awesome. Check that out. Both your channels are great. So if you enjoyed this, you'll definitely enjoy those channels. And
thank you, man. Appreciate
absolutely. So guys, join us next time on the Dead End Drive In.